Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Sawyer Live Local. This is our local little channel here that we're promoting some of our local stuff here at Sawyer Station. And today we are fortunate enough to be joined by Paul Clark, aka SUP Paul, because he's actually coming into town, and we've got some very exciting programs coming up. So I'm going to let Paul do a little intro, and then we'll get into just kind of letting you know what's coming up this weekend and how you can get involved. So take it away, Paul.
What's up, everyone? I'm Paul Clark. Sup, Paul? Thank you so much, Zach, for having me on. This is the second time I've been on your show, and much appreciated. Everything that you do with Sawyer is such a great thing. And this Saturday, you've invited me to come and host a little clinic on the Rogue, an introductory river paddleboarding clinic. So I'm excited to join you and some locals down in Gold Hill for that. As some of your audience may or may know, I am an adventure paddleboarder. I travel rivers on a paddleboard, and I shoot content. I shoot videos and photos and present content in relationship to brands that I align with, including Sawyer, the best river paddles and oars on the market. Shameless plug for Sawyer.
Excellent. So, we have a lot of folks that are probably interested in this, have done Wednesdays on the Water with us. So this clinic that we're going to do, maybe the first thing that we can talk about is really like who should come to this clinic. What person could really benefit from this clinic? Say they've already got a Hollis SUP board, and they're starting to venture out. Who's that target? Who are we looking to bring in?
In general, it's going to be an introduction to river paddleboarding. So it's the fundamentals of the proper outfitting, what equipment you wear, and the boards that you paddle, river-ready equipment, and some fundamental techniques that you could run a Class 1, Class 2 section of moving water, confidently steering your own craft. So I like to do introductory river clinics by really focusing on the fundamentals of paddling in moving water. I do exercises on the knees so that you're familiar with getting low and stable, falling off the board, getting back on the board. We start off in a very safe environment. We're in a big eddy that is essentially just a pond where we get to those fundamentals. I do kneeling, one knee, and then standing up exercises. And then we move into the current so that we feel what our fundamentals allow us to do while moving down the rapids. So this is for anyone who really wants to pilot their own river craft without having to be in a raft filled with 8 of your best friends, or a drift boat, or a kayak, whether it be an IK or a hardshell kayak. And I've been finding that people are interested in river paddleboarding who have always been a little intimidated from the kayaking perspective. They don't want to roll. So we are going to get wet. We are going to be practicing our recoveries, but we're not going to have to learn how to roll a boat. So river paddleboarding is a great tool for exploring rivers. And this is a clinic that we're going to just focus on the fundamentals.
Right. And so we do have some folks in the local area that are outfitters. So an outfitter could definitely benefit from this especially if they don't have a guide that is into stand-up paddleboarding. So, and if they're thinking of offering that would definitely be beneficial so that they had some of those basic skills. We also have folks that are lodge owners on the Rogue River, and they've come in and they've purchased a handful of boards, and so they're going to be offering those to their guests. This would be very beneficial for a lodge owner, even if they had 3 or 4 boards. If they actually had that ability to kind of at least give some of those pointers for folks before they just turn them loose on the water as well. And then also, I think just families. A lot of what we talk about is incorporating that paddleboard into your river trip, right? And around this area, so many families have a raft and they're getting on the water, but they have all these little small duckling craft. And now more and more, a lot of that duckling craft is a SUP board or two with their raft setup. So that person as well, right, could really benefit from this, where they feel a little bit more comfortable and feel like they have a little foundation. Because and you find where a lot of people, when they decide to get into it, is they basically just go buy all the equipment and then just kind of try and figure it out on their own. Like, you know, we have people come back to Wednesdays on the Water just to get that repetition of paddling and grab a little bit of instruction every time they're there. You know what I mean? So I think that there's definitely,
yeah, like focusing on the fundamentals for anything is setting yourself up for success. When I started river paddleboarding, I knew nothing about the river. I simply knew nothing about the river, but I wanted to do multi-day SUP support trips. And if you live in Central Oregon, it's going to be on a river like the John Day or the Deschutes. So I wanted to do those. And so I just threw myself into the river and realized that there's a lot of skills that I needed to learn. I didn't know how to read a current. I didn't know what a hole was. I didn't know what a standing wave was. I didn't know how to navigate a craft around a corner. So all the learning lessons that I have with the river, I've been able to condense into a workshop. And the clinic that we're going to be doing on Saturday is going to be even more condensed with that, really focusing on what I identify as the best way to set people up for success, whether you're a family, like you mentioned, or if you're an outfitter. This isn't going to be an outfitting specific clinic, but it is going to be something that an outfitter could benefit from for sure.
Exactly. You know, if they have the time and they want to kind of get a little bit more experience with that, so they feel more comfortable offering that to their guests, you know, that's definitely something that we're encouraging. So now I know that you have your own little acronym for the gear you need, and
yes,
why don't we run everybody through SHIPS, and we can talk about that a little bit, because definitely having the right gear for the clinic is going to be important.
Well, absolutely. The fundamentals include the outfitting, the type of paddleboard and the type of paddle you have, as well as the clothing that you wear. And I've broken down the clothing to a simple acronym, allowing the person to realize that this river sport requires you to look like a river enthusiast, primarily a whitewater kayaker. So you're going to be wearing what I call SHIPS: shoes, helmet, insulation of some sort in the form of a dry suit or a wetsuit, PFD, padding of some sort, and a signaling device in the form of a whistle. I call that SHIPS. So as you look at Covey behind you on the wall, I mean, he's modeling SHIPS pretty well. He has his shoes on, he's got his helmet on. He does have.
He's lightly insulated though.
Well, the Rogue in the middle of the summer, where when that shot was taken, you know, you dress for the water temperature and you dress for the ambient temperature. And when it's a warm, you know, Southern Oregon day, he's perfectly fine with that. I see that he's wearing some shin guards and he has a big smile. And of course, that green jacket that he's wearing contains signaling devices. So, you know, that over your left shoulder, Covey's modeling SHIPS quite well. And he also has a Sawyer specific river paddle and a hollow radito, which is a very significantly built board for river touring.
Right. And you know, part of it is that you know, we want people to feel comfortable to get wet, right? Like, you know, I mean, the Rogue River is maybe pushing about 50 degrees at this time of year. So, you know, air temperature is supposed to be maybe in the high 60s, low 70s on Saturday, possible little chance of some drizzle. So we want people to, if you don't have these items, then we want you to make that arrangement. And so what we're going to be able to provide between Paul's inventory and our inventory is that we will be able to have boards for everybody. We'll be able to have a life jacket for everybody, but the rest of that stuff really kind of needs to come from them. So if somebody is not a real avid river user and they don't have a wetsuit or any of that, We do work in conjunction with Rogue Rafting, and they have offered to rent out that whole package because they basically have all that for the rafter, right? So they have all of those things, and so from them, for $25, you can get a wetsuit, the booties, the splash jacket, and a helmet. So you're basically ready to plug into what we're going to offer for free, and you will actually have all the gear so you're comfortable getting wet. And the whole idea is to get wet, right? You're going to generate a lot of internal heat by just your paddling and trying to work on your balance and maneuvering, but every time you go in the water, you get to cool down a little bit.
And so, I just really want to reiterate that people will be in the water. Recovering is a key ingredient that I stress and will have us do a couple of times. Falling off the board, learning how to fall onto the board, learning how to fall as flat into the river as possible and get back on the board. So the general fitness level has to be, pretty good for a person to do that. And it might not be the warmest day. So understanding that we'll be on the water for a couple of hours potentially. So having a proper insulation will be important that day.
Yep. Yeah. And it's also one of those things where, this is a river paddleboard clinic. And so, there's definitely some rapids that at all skill levels, some people are going to feel comfortable trying to stand up through. Other people are not going to feel comfortable standing up through some of the rapids, and that's okay as well. It's not something where you have to stand up the whole time. You can still glean a lot of good information out of this clinic, even if you end up having to kneel through a few rapids, right? We're not looking at, this isn't a graduation ceremony. This is basically an introduction. So,
and I really want to make it clear, this isn't standard through the industry. Most professional river paddleboarders really say that standing is it. Yes, standing is a powerful position, but it's called stand-up paddleboarding because that's the penultimate stance for the size of paddle that you have, etc. But it's not required that you stand. You could kneel, you could sit, you could do downward dog. And you're going to be more successful. You're going to understand how to navigate your board if you're in a more stable position, which is lower on the board, either in a really powerful squat or kneeling. And you're going to be setting yourself up for success if you understand how to navigate really before the series of paddling strokes. And I don't plan on getting into a series of paddle strokes. I host other clinics for that, and ACA does clinics, and they'll spend 8 hours just doing paddle strokes all day. So we're just getting confidence in the outfitting and getting personal navigation abilities.
Right. And I think it is important for people to understand that when they are standing up, that typically generates more power. Like you can get more power into your paddle stroke when you're standing up. But when you're squatting or you're kneeling, you have more stability. So it's kind of almost where, do you need power or stability? And a lot of, in rapids, you're bracing, right? So you need the stability. It's not like you're not aerobicizing for miles. It's short, choppy paddle strokes, and stability is very key.
And what I'm gonna reveal something. I am out of shape over COVID and this entire year. Really, I haven't been as physically fit as I'd like to be. Imagine that. I mean, I think we're all in that kind of position. And I've found that without conditioning my legs and by working on lunges, telemark skiing style exercises, my paddling has really deteriorated. I've been looking at videos that I've been filming of myself lately. I'm pretty tall in the legs and paddling bent at the waist. And inevitably, if I'm going to introduce a whitewater kayaker to the river, they might know how to drop class 5 rapids, but they're so used to bending at the waist for power. As soon as they stand on a board, they bend at the waist and they fall on their face. So I've been doing that. And the super stick the super stick that I have tends to be shorter than what most people go for. So the design of the Sawyer super stick is really intended for a crouching stance, dropping your butt into your heels and then really keeping the blade in the water, feathering, bracing, ruddering. And you could maintain that brace, or you could just kneel through a rapid. But as long as you're low, you're more stable. And the super stick really helps with that, as well as your stance and your conditioning.
Yeah, I know Alec actually, my son, he picks out some of the raft paddles, because he likes to paddle with a raft paddle. If it's something that's very challenging, he's trying to get that lower stance, and definitely like some of the, like the Venom raft paddle, he's paddled with that a bit, because he likes that little, just to get that lower stance there. And I notice he does a lot of where he's almost kind of completely compressed, but he's not on his knees. Like, his knees are like 4 or 5 inches off the board, but he's into that compressed little stance.
And
he's a bit more agile than I am.
Well, I mean, you've got to have the 20-something knees, and, an active telemark skier, active Nordic skier, active doing, CrossFit type of things. But when the Payette River Games in Cascade, Idaho were going for a few years in the mid 2000 teens, what I noticed going there is that the professional river paddlers, the ex-whitewater kayakers, they made everything look really good. Their crossbows were dialed, their ferry angles were good. But interestingly enough, the people who won were all the ocean surfers, all the professional ocean open water paddleboarders, because they could care less about making it look good. They cared less about being fast and stable and on the board.
Right.
So all of them, including Kai Lenny, their technique when it came to a rapid was drop your butt to the board. They weren't sitting. They weren't paddling from a knee, but they were definitely doing a limbo stroke. And I realized low is the key. And then you could,
you watch those guys, and a lot of those surf breaks that those guys have to get used to. I mean, you can compare that to whitewater, even if it's even more intense than whitewater, and these guys are launching through these surf breaks on, 14-foot race boards.
Yeah.
And you can see where they, but you're talking some pretty skilled individuals. Kai Lenning, and I remember Mo Freitas was there, where he had a good year, and that's when he was still paddling with us. So, but yeah, absolutely. It's that combat technique, and that's where a kayaker has that natural skill set, because they've been reading water, sitting in it for so long. They probably really, they still have all the water reading skills, but now they're standing up at this vantage point where they can be like, yeah, I can see so much more. I can see the bottom of that drop that I'm going into.
And perspective is key. And that's why there are IKs. That's why there are hard-shelled play boats. That's why there are rafts and drift boats and paddle boards, because it's just all something different. I wasn't interested in the river, like I said, until the river came along. And during the coronavirus quarantine, I've created a podcast. And Natalie Zollinger, one of my guests, really mentioned that when she got into river paddleboarding after a career as a raft guide, she was really concerned by the fact that you swim. She says, as a raft guide, people don't swim. Raft guides don't swim. They take baths, but they don't swim, especially through rapids.
That's a badge. That's a badge of honor,
Yeah.
There's 2 types of raft guides: those that have flipped and those that will flip. But you try not to make it a general habit.
Yeah. So river paddleboarders will flip, they'll swim, and having the fundamentals, which we'll be going over during the clinic, will allow you to do it safely. And of course, rivers are dynamic. Anything could happen, even with the proper protection and paddling with groups, anything could happen. So the more you do it, the more experience you get with it. So, and that's kind of really what we're focusing on this coming Saturday.
Absolutely. Well, excellent, Paul. A couple things that we really do need to let people know about is that, as we were talking a little bit before this, is that we do Wednesdays on the water every Wednesday. So we have one happening right after this show's here on Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll be doing this every Wednesday. But to make that happen, we work in conjunction with Rogue Rafting, which is a local rafting group in town. And this clinic, we're able to do this clinic with you because of our partnership with them as well. And so in that partnership, basically all the outfitters that are offering trips are now in this new outfitting in COVID-19. It's basically all these new guidelines that they need to adhere with. And so we are going to adhere to those guidelines as well with your clinic and with our Wednesdays on the Water. So I do want to take this time to just kind of remind folks of how we are operating. First of all, in our shop, we are requiring people to have a face covering. All of the staff in the shop, when they're in the shop the whole time, they have a face covering. And obviously when we're out on the river and you're out there paddling yourself, you don't really need a face covering. You can easily distance yourself from folks. But if we're actually having to outfit you with gear, or we need to describe a perfect, potential technique or a different fin configuration or something like that, where we need to have a close dialogue, we want to adhere to their guidelines and have some face covering. So one of the easiest ways to do that is by an active face buff, so that you can pull it up over your mouth and your nose when you're in close contact with somebody. And then when you're out on the river, just pull it down and paddle freely. So this is starting for all Wednesdays on the Water, and it's going to be with any clinics as of for the near future. As we move forward in this, who knows, things may change, but right now we have found a way to operate. And really, it's one of those things, as you were saying, is everybody just needs to be conscious and respectful of people's personal space, understanding what 6 feet of distance really is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically it's the day and age that we're in. But we're very, very thankful that you're going to be coming down to do this event. And it's great opportunity for folks to get out there on the water with you and get that different perspective, and hopefully they're able to take a few things away that they can practice on throughout the summer. And one of the things is that getting out there on your paddleboard is probably one of the more healthy things you can do, because even if it's just you and the person you live with, you can get out on a paddleboard and paddle around for a couple hours and be out in the fresh air and not be in any close proximity to anybody else. So it really kind of rings true with, adventure with who you live with.
Sure.
And really be considerate of people's personal space.
And the great thing about the Rogue, most people know not from the area, know about the wild scenic section, but there are so many great sections of the Rogue that are perfect for paddleboarding. The Shady Cove area in particular, where you're not really dealing with too many technical features, but you do have moving water. And honestly, once you're on moving water, it's hard to go back to a lake or any type of flat water environment. But finding an eddy, finding a little surf wave really makes you a better paddler. Today I was on the Lower Deschutes in Maupin, and I spent 2 hours just doing training, and that felt fantastic. Really focusing on my stance, really focusing on my peel outs of an eddy, and I stayed in the same feature for about 2 hours, and I'm sure I got several miles in that, and I felt fatigued when I was done, but I felt accomplished without having to go very far. Right. And that's the nice thing about the river, is that it's, especially if you're dealing with an eddy, it's just recycling you back. It's a fantastic exercise.
Yeah, and there are endless amounts of navigable water in this valley, and that's one of the things that really makes this clinic such a benefit. If I encourage people to come out to this clinic, if you're in town this Saturday, you should definitely get a hold of us. You can email us at info@Sawyer Station, or you can just send us a message here on their Facebook. And basically, we need to do some outfitter screening with you. So even though this event is free, you have to sign up. You must pre-register for this event. And that pre-registration is basically getting a hold of one of the folks at Sawyer and let us give you outfitter screening, and we just basically need to ask you a few questions and make sure that you're aware of the new COVID outfitting guidelines, and we'll go out there and have a good time. So Paul, we really are looking forward to you coming into town, and we'll be down here in just a few days, and wish you travel safe, and we'll see you very soon in Southern Oregon.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. See you, everyone.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Please give us a holler, give us a message, give us a phone call, or give us an email, and connect up with us if you have any interest in doing this course. The clinic is going to be most of the afternoon, so we will be heading out to the water at high noon. You need to meet at Sawyer Station at 11:30, and we will probably not be finished up until somewhere between 3 and 4. So plan some time in the afternoon, come out and join us on the water, and we'll see you at the Sawyer Station.